Hello, and welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. My name is Stephen Einstein. Thank you all for joining me again tonight as we go through into today's daily reading from James Allen's Daily Meditations. This, of course, will be fresh to you and fresh to me, meaning you'll get my genuine response, reactions, observations, and what I relate to about the reading, as this will be the first time that I hear it or read it right here on this podcast with y'all. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm been really encouraged this last couple of days. I like the self-discipline aspect and the purification that we're talking about. This is all real important stuff. This is the actual process of attaining spiritual living to become more in alignment with God, or God of your understanding, that nature, that force that flows through everything. Right. That's what this is about. So let's go ahead. Let's get to November 28th reading of James Allen's Daily Meditations. By self-discipline, a man rises higher and higher, approximating more and more nearly to the divine. As a man grows purer, he perceives that all evil is powerless unless it receives his encouragement. And so he ignores it and lets it pass out of his life. It is by pursuing this aspect of self discipline that a man enters into and realizes the divine life and manifests those qualities which are consistently divine, such as wisdom, patience, non resistance, compassion, and love. It is here, also, where a man becomes consciously immortal, rising above all the fluctuations and uncertainties of life and living in an intelligent and unchangeable peace. By self discipline, a man attains to every degree of virtue and holiness and finally becomes a purified son of God, realizing his oneness with the central heart of all things. Wow. Those are some promises there. Those are those some things to strive towards to attain. That's a beautiful reading. And as much as I've experienced it, it is true. This opening line, that by self discipline, a man rises higher and higher, approximating more and more nearly to the divine. I find it so interesting that the more I purify myself, the more I actually take the right actions and I take a look at why I want to do the wrong actions and take care of these things and actually make an effort and aspire to be different. I realize I find more and more peace, love, joy, happiness, so many things that I've always sought are more readily available to me now. Just they're side effects of living well. And those are all aspects of the divine nature of the God of my understanding. So that ideal we hold, that perception we hold, we become more like, whether we realize it or not. That's why it's so important to define your ideal, because without it, you're a directionless ship. What are you sailing towards? What are you choosing to aspire to? Who is your example? As a man grows purer, he perceives that all evil is powerless unless it receives his encouragement. So he ignores it and lets it pass out of his life. Now this is great stuff right here. All evil, all ignorance, all sin is powerless unless we encourage it, right? Unless we actively participate and we feed energy to it by thought, by action. Evil is powerless. Should we just ignore it? Don't entertain it. Don't give it your energy. Don't give it your time. Do not engage with it. Those defects of characters, those fears, those insecurities, those unknowings. Those things die when they're starved. When they're starved of energy. When they're starved of thought or consideration. You abandon those things and they'll die. So So he ignores it and lets it pass out of his life. It just goes away. After you go through this process, though, it's just not as simple as stopping doing something. You have to contr- practice self control, stop the behavior. Then you have to go through the purification process and understand why. Why do you do this thing? What does it do for you? Why are you so attached to it? What is the reason? And then, after you've understood the reason and you've been able to take the appropriate change in thought, you abandon it. You abandon that old behavior because it no longer will serve you. The underlying causes and understandings are exposed, and you no longer need it. What a beautiful thing. It is by pursuing this aspect of self discipline that a man enters into and realizes the divine life and manifests those qualities which are distinctly divine, such as wisdom, patience, non resistance, compassion, and love. When we abandon our old sinful ways, meaning our old ways of ignorance that served us at one point, or that we thought they did. They achieved a certain goal for us. They did something we wanted them to do. We made us feel better, made us feel safe because we could react in a certain way, right? Or we got this certain type of attention, or we felt this certain way from a substance or um, an individual or something. When we achieve this final stage of self discipline, I believe this is from Above Life's Turmoils, by the way. There's a chapter on self discipline. It describes this process. I think that's where this comes from. I just recently read this or read that aspect, but I can't remember if it's word for word, but I do remember the three parts that it was talking about. So I think this whole last couple of days has been from that section, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, but we're talking about the third phase where we just abandon the behavior altogether because it's been stopped, it's been understood, and now it's been discarded. And we get the opportunity to practice the qualities that he lists here. Distinctly divine qualities such as wisdom, patience, non resistance, compassion, and love. Every time we do this act of purification, every time we take these steps and follow this process of ridding ourselves of this bad habit, this sinful act, behavior, whatever you'd like to call it, act of ignorance, evil, we cleanse ourselves of that. There's so much freedom to be able to practice what we need to. And it gives us the ability to relate to others that are going through the same thing, that are having the same behaviors, just haven't done the work yet. And we can have that compassion and that understanding. Right? We can. This next line's an interesting one. It is here on the other side of the relinquishing of the bad habit that man becomes consciously immortal, rising above all the fluctuations and uncertainties of life and living in an intelligent and unchangeable peace. So you become aligned in your steadfastness with the immortal. You become aligned in your principles and the spiritual laws. You don't let the highs and lows, the passions and the sorrows of this physical material world affect how you're going to live, how you're going to behave, how you're going to stay connected to this realm of inspiration. Mm. It's so good. Consciously, not physically, consciously immortal. There's a distinction there. That's just a beautiful thing, though. Rising above all the fluctuations and uncertainties of life, and living in an intelligent, unchangeable peace. right, now the closing line here. By self discipline, a man attains to every degree of virtue and holiness, and finally becomes a purified Son of God, realizing his oneness with the eternal heart of all things. It's an amazing thing. It's the self discipline, the discipline of this physical self, the animal self, this part of us that our soul and our spirit is connected to. It's the discipline of that part. And our soul and our spirit gets to experience this physical world through that self-discipline. That's the only way it shows up. That's the only way it comes pouring into this world is through the discipline of us, through the um, release and rejection of those old self-serving behaviors and opinions. And then we finally become a purified son of God. Now, I would like to say I'm there, but it's a process, at least for me, and that's been my experience. But I do the best I can these days, and I found so much peace. I found so much of heaven and God right here in this world. It's amazing to me how much I was missing, how much I didn't even recognize, and how it was all just sitting within me, the opportunity and the possibility to grow in these ways. And what a blessing that is. What a blessing that is. So, well, that'll be it for tonight. Thank y'all for joining me again. I just always am grateful for everybody that likes to participate and will jump on and have a listen. So I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to seeing how November comes around at the end, and we'll go from there. So until next time, thanks.